Welcome to the Spiritualpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Christian, aka Love Pixel. And in each episode, we sit down with spiritual entrepreneurs sharing their knowledge, wisdom, and tools on their path to authentic success. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Successful Spiritualpreneur Podcast. Today, I'm super excited for a very special guest. Her name is Nadia Hannout, and she is a profound seeker, mentor, and student of the sacred, whose journey into the heart of self-love and purpose has been guided by ancient plants and traditions. So super excited for her because her path has been one of profound healing and transformation. She's constantly evolving and reinventing herself. And, it's a journey that has spanned over 5 years and ultimately inspired her to move to Ecuador. And this pivotal decision was driven by her deep gratitude for personal growth and the desire to reconnect with her roots in Ecuador. Nadia has dedicated herself and her life to understanding and being in service to Mother Earth and the essence of life itself. Nadia's approach to her studies and practice is holistic and integrative. She engages deeply with personal experiences and the wisdom of her teachers, exploring the vast rounds of human psycho-spiritual journey, and her academic and practical inquiries encompass a range of topics, including cognitive development, the Enneagram system, consciousness coaching, and methodologies for integrating experiences in altered states of consciousness. So super excited to have her on the podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. I am getting over a flu, so I might be a little bit congested, but I'm feeling really good now.
Great, fabulous. I'm super excited to have you on the podcast because you are so connected to everything divine and sacred, and your light is just so pure. So it's really an honor to have you on here. I think there's a lot of interviews that get watched and content that gets consumed by people who are very popular already, like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and blah blah blah. And interviews have like millions of views. But for me, it's always a joy to have people on the podcast that just radiate light and are just so pure. And for me, you are one of these people, like a very, very pure soul.
Wow, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I I really appreciate hearing you say that, and I have a lot of gratitude for. I think the things that we will talk about on this podcast that I feel allowed me to connect to that light and live in this way. So thank you for reflecting that back to me.
You're welcome. Beautiful. So could you give us a brief overview of your background and, highlight some of your, just like milestones on your path in your coaching and entrepreneurship realm, as well as with plant medicine? That would be fantastic. So basically, what's your story and what's guided you on your path?
For sure, I would love to. So I think before living life and having kind of like the life that I live right now, it's worth mentioning that I spent almost a decade working in tech in New York City. And so I was like the epitome of like an overachiever and a workaholic. And living my life in that way is what allowed me to get to where I am today because I experienced just total burnout and I experienced and could really feel what just like deep unsatisfaction and like feeling unfulfilled felt like, despite checking off all the boxes and doing all of the things that looked good on paper as far as how I thought one should be living life and what life should look like. And so somewhere along that journey, because of how unhappy I was, I started to seek healing, like alternative healing methods. And really, what I was looking for was a path to understanding myself, like understanding why I was so unwell and looking for more meaning. And plant medicines have and continue to be a really integral component of my life. Plant medicines were the things that kind of opened my eyes and allowed me to see and understand that I was super hard on myself. I was taking life too seriously, and there was more to life than what I was living. And so I would say, like, the first few years of my journey was just really focused on diving really deep within myself to understand what it was about my life and the experiences that I had that had shaped me and that had created like the mental I call it like the operating system, like our phones, like the OS, like what developed the OS that I was living and what would it take for me to develop an entirely new operating system more aligned with the vision that I had connected to and like the clarity that I had for the way in which I wanted to be living life. And so I would say it was like that life in tech throughout that time, doing a lot of self discovery and working with different types of healers. And then, like, I would say, like, a really pivotal moment was getting to the point where I had the courage to like leave my job, leave my entire life behind, and just give myself the time in this space to allow whatever needed to unfold so that I could continue moving forward on my journey. And in that time and space that I gave myself, I ended up coming to Ecuador and then moving to Ecuador to just really dedicate my life to my life's work, which is a couple of different things. And now I am the apprentice of a medicine woman who serves ayahuasca. I am also the student of an indigenous elder in Colombia who works with a plant called yopo. But aside from learning and being in service to that plant, it's more receiving his healing tradition. It's like becoming a traditional medic. And then I combine all that I'm learning from the plants and my teachers and my own experience, and I channel that into coaching and what I think is like evolving into mentorship for people who are really ready to transform their lives and themselves.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And question from my side is here, what made you pursue a career with plant medicine? Because it's one thing to become, an entrepreneur, right? And a coach and, to start your own thing in a way that's a big step. Like I'm not, degrading that, but to pursue a career with plant medicine is very sacred. So what made you, it's a big, I think it's a big deal. So tell me, how did that come about? Like, how did you decide I want to work with plant medicines and make this an actual career? It's super fascinating.
I feel like from the first encounter that I had with sacred plant medicines, like that first encounter with myself, my essence, it was something that I knew. It was a feeling that I had that I knew that my life was meant to be in service of the sacred plants. It was just that I didn't know how. And for a while it was more just an awareness that I had this feeling. It wasn't like after my first ceremony I had the thought, well, now I'm just going to dedicate my life to this. But it was something that was very clear to me. And I feel also, I mean, maybe it's not so important to go into that, but it was just a knowing that I had. And what evolved over time, what I got more clear on over time was how my life would be in service to plant medicines. Like from the first awareness that this was the work that my life was going to be dedicated to having the clarity and understanding that it was ayahuasca and it was this like healing tradition with my elder teacher that like took a period of like 5 years for me to get to that clarity. But I feel like when one connects to just a truth that is that just so true within themselves, it's like there's no doubt, there's like no second guessing. It's just I just knew.
Beautiful. And so, did you have any, like, tell us, maybe some challenges and along your path of, becoming a spiritual entrepreneur, especially with plant medicine. What is some tricky moments and how you overcame those? Would be beautiful to know.
I would say the first thing and the scariest thing was walking away from the like I like to call it or think of it as imaginary security that I felt that I had with the life that I was living previously. I had a job that paid really well. I was living in New York. There, my life felt very like comfortable and predictable and like if excuse me, like it was safe, I guess is just how I would describe it. Mostly because of the material aspect of it.
It's interesting that you get to cough now, because like you just mentioned, before the podcast that you did ayahuasca recently, right? So maybe the medicine is still a little bit active, and now you're talking about all this like old stuff. It's like, it wants to be released, to be, you know?
It's so true. And so walking away from the comfort and the security that I had is definitely the biggest challenge because it's just really scary. I mean, I remember having thoughts in my head. I think like our minds can often take us to the worst case scenario. So my mind where I would go, like if I thought about me allowing myself to pursue where my heart was taking me, I'd say, okay, like let me give myself a year and just see what happens. And in my mind, it would be like, okay, but if you like leave your job and you take a year, like what if you can't find a job that's as good because like you're no longer as marketable and then you're not going to be able to afford to pay your mortgage and you're going to lose your apartment and you're going to be like living out on the streets and have like no money to do anything or take care of yourself. And all of that was totally untrue, but that was like the extent of the fear that was present for me in terms of walking away from the life that I had spent many years building for myself. And so that I would say was the biggest challenge. And then there are other things that I would consider more like minor annoyances. Like to me, they were annoyances, but to others, I feel when I hear others speaking about it, like they really present themselves as greater challenges. It's what the people that surround you in your life have to say or what they think about the choices or the direction that one is deciding like to take their life in. And so I feel like I got lucky. My parents were surprisingly supportive because my parents are actually very traditional. And so for them, my decision to change my life in the way in which I did, I think was very shocking for them, but they have always been really supportive, even though they don't always understand. But, you know, family and friends have things to say and opinions. And I think that that can be really challenging too, because sometimes that can confuse us. Like if we feel really clear about something and we feel really good about the direction that we're taking things in, and then you talk to someone and they tell you that they think you're crazy, or they start to share all of these what ifs, which are just projections of like their own fears or their own insecurities, it can really confuse one that's not like really, really centered in themselves and what they're doing, which I think like when you're starting to forge your new path, it's not always really easy to be really grounded and centered and confident in the decision. And so what you need more is support as opposed to people making you like more scared or maybe more confused about this very brave decision that you're choosing to take. And so that would be another big one. And then the third is it for me, I was taking a step into the unknown. And so there was no roadmap, like I didn't know what was next for me. And so it was also challenging at times to just be with that and also
Hmm.
to start to cultivate the things
Yeah.
that come next and kind of like the trial
Yeah.
and error.
It's so fascinating for me because I mean this it's called the Spiritualpreneur podcast, right? And I chose this for a reason. Um, because when you decide to be a spiritualpreneur, there's just something that money is definitely not your number one priority, right? It's so interesting how we're just like, we know there's so many other things in the world that would probably make us more successful in the world in form, right? But we just know we got to do this, we got to walk this path, And a lot of times there's so much trust that is involved there that, yeah, you just need to trust. And I think the more you get in touch with this like intangible spiritual source energy, the the more oftentimes you just need to let go of the form and the structure and the control and I know this is gonna work and yada 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 and so it's beautiful because in one way it gives this component of uncertainty and also this component of like, do you really want this? Because it's not for everyone, you know? If somebody just like wants to make money, I don't think we become a spiritual entrepreneur. It's not a good path. You know what I mean? There's tons of other ways to make money quicker than a spiritual entrepreneur, but it is a path that's very fulfilling, if that's in alignment with you, of course. And it's beautiful to see how I mean, logically, it just doesn't make sense. You understand? There's so many people out there who make a lot less money and they're very talented, very smart, and they are, you know, spiritual entrepreneurs, so it's beautiful. So it's beautiful to see that in you as well. And yeah, so my next question would be, when it comes to, starting your own business and being an entrepreneur and, building an online identity, what strategies would you recommend for developing an authentic online presence for anybody who's listening in and they're thinking about like, you know what, I just have this calling in my heart and there's something there's a message that I have that the world needs to hear. Like, where do I start? What do I do? What is there a strategy? What do you, anything that comes to mind?
I will share what I feel like I have learned, I'm like connecting to currently because I'm also like still in this process myself. But I feel like first and foremost, like I think it's super important to be as authentic as possible. Like not necessarily to think so much about what you think people want to hear or how they want to hear it. Just like being able to have the confidence to share what it is that you feel inside yourself that you feel like you have to share with others, regardless if you think it sounds like weird or whatever it is. But I feel like being authentic is the best way to connect with people and like what will ultimately result in generating like um, connection with like the audience that you want to build and to grow. And the thing that I have found is like when I allow myself to be the most vulnerable, whether it's I really like to write, and so the way in which I share content tends to be through writing, or now I'm starting to create and just like share like videos. But when I allow myself to be the most vulnerable, I always feel like I get at least one person who sends me like a really like a message that just fills my heart with so much like gratitude and appreciation because they allow me to see the way in which like what I shared with them, how it resonated with them or like how it inspired them or how it motivated them or something like that. And I'm not sharing usually like when I share, it's more so like for me, it's in a way like a form of like my own therapy, and I'm just kind of like okay, I'm like thinking about this a lot, or like I'm struggling with this, or like this is an experience that I recently had and this is what I learned from it, or this is how I processed it, this was my approach, I'm just going to share it for the sake of sharing. Like I never think like, oh, I think this is going to inspire people, but when I do that, it's like someone lets me know how it made them feel, and that's inspiring to me. And so I think being authentic is really important. And then the thing that you really helped me with. I think like there is also something that we have to take into consideration where we're like living in the time of the internet and there are like so many different people that you can find online and offerings and things like that. And I think like people need help finding and feeling like a little bit of like security and being able to like trust someone or work with someone. And so I think like investing the time in like creating a space where people can go, they can learn about who you are, they can see what you offer, understand a bit about what your journey is or what it's like to work with you. Like I think it's really worthwhile to invest in creating a space like that where people can arrive and find you and find all the information that you want them to find about you. And so like that's where you were such an ally in creating my first website, because and you also like helped me through that whole process. Like you helped me in terms of thinking about what I needed to be sharing, how I needed to share it, how to lay it out also so the eyeballs that show up on it, like don't get fatigued, or it's easy for them to kind of navigate and find what they need. And so I think thinking about like oneself as a business, like you need to think about the resources and the things that you need to do in order to be able to support yourself. And so I think like creating like for me it was a website. And like people are really big on like social media, like an Instagram, but like having some sort of strategy, having someone who's an expert, like we can't all be experts in all things. So like I like to focus on being the expert in what I'm an expert in, and then I like to go to other experts to give me guidance on the things that I don't know anything about. And so finding someone like you to help me, because the internet is like a really big tool for me. Like right now, a lot of the people that I work with are word of mouth and friends and things like that. But my intention is to share my work with as many people as I possibly can. And so the internet becomes a big tool there. And the thing that I mentioned before, like for me, I really like to write. So like maybe it's like old school, I don't know, but like I have a blog. I really like to share there. I think like what I'm saying with all of this is like I'm finding the at the different ways in which I can share as much of myself as like vulnerably and as authentically as I possibly can. Like my past, what I'm currently living, the things that I'm working towards, because I think like we're all humans and we're all the same in that way. And like I'm not going to be for everyone, and I'm not trying to be. And so I just want to be able to put myself out there in a way where those that are like going to resonate with me, like can find me and have a little bit of an understanding of what I'm about.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And in your journey of, building your identity, and writing these blog posts, do you also use like tools like AI and things like that, or not yet somehow? Because, obviously a lot of clients that we work currently with, they use a lot of ChatGPT, and even we're at Love Pixel big fans, right? But we make sure we emphasize the human character of these tools as well. So don't just take the stuff that the robot writes, but infuse it with your love and authenticity. And I think what was your experience? Do you use these tools at all? If so, is there a cool balance that you could strike somehow, or you just say, nah, I'm not a big fan at all?
I am definitely, I mean, I'm a person that really values efficiency and organization. And so I feel like more tools that I use would be around that. And I'm not closed off to exploring how incorporating more technology and like my processes can support me. But I feel like I'm like a really old soul in the sense that I like to do things old school. Chat GPT, I don't know if I would ever introduce AI into the things that I write, because then I really feel like I can't say it's fully me, and that just doesn't resonate with me right now. I have tried to explore like the AI tools for creating images, um, which has been like a little bit fun to play around with, although I think I haven't mastered the art of like putting the right string of words together to get the types of images that I want.
Yeah.
But I'm more of just, no, I'm like basic, like I like scheduling tools like for posting. Like I think that's helpful. I like tools like Evernote, like for where I can like keep track of like ideas, or actually in the future, a really good friend of mine and I are planning on starting a podcast as well. And so I think like more technology will come in the works in the future, but it's also like a lot of work. It's like there's so much time and energy that I spent in like the studying that I do, and then the work that I do, and then this whole thing of like the more business side of things is a lot. And so I'm still getting the hang of it.
Cool. So what, like in your current experience, like what are your three top favorite like software tools, whatever they're related to?
I mean, I really like I said, like Evernote for like if I'm like planning things, and writing and things like that. So I use Evernote. I'm like just like a really big fan of like the Google suite, and oh, Canva. Canva is a great ally. Canva is what I use like to create posts and content for my retreats and things like that. And so I appreciate Canva a lot.
I love that. I can hear the love out there. She said, "Yo, I appreciate you, Canva." Right, leaving some love here for Canva. That's good. Yeah, I think Canva is such a big tool because, I mean, I know I'm proficient in Photoshop, but just like when I learned it, I was like, this is a different language, this program, Photoshop. So it's like Canva just makes it so easy for people to just create their own content and graphics, and it's a great tool.
It
We love it.
Especially for like the non like talented folks like me, like with that stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, Photoshop is very technical. It's just so many settings, and I don't even use half the settings that there are. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So let's now, I want to shift the conversation a little bit more like, okay, how do you maintain balance between your work and your, personal life and, with all the things that you do? Is there any routines that you have, any, wisdom you want to share with us? We'd love to hear.
Yes, I mean, for me, that balance is like really important and something that's always really top of mind for me because I feel like we can only give when our cups are full. And so it's like really important to take care of ourselves. And so, like on a daily basis, I have a routine that I feel really supports me, and that's meditation, some form of movement. I live on a mountain, so I like to walk on the mountain, or I do some yoga and writing. Like I sit down and I write like 1 to 3 pages the first part of my day. These three things I try to do every morning, like before I get started on my day, and that I feel helps me be centered and be grounded and be able to like do the things that I need to do from the best place. And then aside from that, it's like more and more I put more attention on my nutrition and how I eat and how I nourish myself and take care of myself. And for me, time and space to like really rest and recharge is really important. And so I'm really intentional about giving myself that time. Like staying home or just doing things with myself and taking time off, just disconnecting. Because for me, I'm just like fully aware of my capacity and my energy. And I can just see like what my output looks like when my energy is low, whether it's like physically, mentally, or emotionally. And so every month I have days where I just like spend time at home doing nothing, doing things that are restorative for my mind and my body. And every day I have like a practice that feels really grounding to me.
Beautiful. Is there any substances like that you can recommend? Like for example, cacao, for example, is a great ally and tool that I use in my daily morning rituals, and tea. I love Japanese green tea. Yeah, is there any other cool little herbs that you know of, or things like that? I'm always a big fan of pointing people into new directions, exploring new allies, new friends.
Yes, I have many because it depends on what I'm feeling that I need. But for example, I currently I'm working a lot with rape. It's like a powdered form of tobacco that is inhaled, and it's something that for me is both really grounding and it helps to like really clarify the mind. And so if I'm ever going through like parts of my day and I'm just feeling like there's a lot of mental chatter or I'm just feeling like I need some extra support grounding, rape is a major ally of mine. Um,
Cool. I love that. I think we should like let's list a couple of plant medicines. Doesn't have to whether they're whatever category, whatever, it doesn't matter. And just like discuss their effects, because I mean, from my experience, just like every plant is different. Even though they're all like, psychedelics, but if we want to stay in the psychedelic category right now, we can. I mean, rapé is not. Um, but we can. And I think it's fun to like see, oh yeah, Iboga is this way and ayahuasca is that way and da, 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 da. It's like I think let's do that. So let's talk a little bit about plant medicine and the energy of the plants. Like what's their character? How are they like? Who would they be? Like if this would be a person, they would be like this energy. I think let's do that. Let's do a little list up.
okay.
So
Um,
let's start with the big one, ayahuasca.
okay. Let's start with the big one. Okay. I
So if
think like
ayahuasca was a person, like how would it be? What would the energy be and feel like?
ayahuasca, well, it makes sense that she's often referred to as grandmother ayahuasca because there's the total wisdom that is felt, and then there's like the sharp wit, like hits you over the head with the hard truths, like the things that you really need to like hear and see about yourself, but then also like envelops you in so much love. So truly it is like a real like grandmother energy. And so that is, like the archetype that I would describe.
Okay, and what does that mean?
Ooh, for me, I think that it's really easy for us to think that we understand what things mean or what words mean with our minds. But what ayahuasca has shown me is that there's a whole nother level of understanding when you feel what something is. And so the first word that I always think of when I think of ayahuasca, and like why also I just like describe her as a grandmother, is because for me, ayahuasca allows me to really understand what love means, but not from like intellectualizing it or it being a concept, but feeling it, like feeling an immense amount of love for myself, for the people in my life, like for the earth that gives us everything that we need to sustain ourselves. It's like love and awe. And when I say like wisdom, there's just so much that we can learn and understand again about like ourselves, about our past, about our future, about like this world, this ecosystem that we all exist in, that we are all like interconnected within the universe. Like there's just so much understanding that ayahuasca can give you. And so it literally feels like just like diving the deepest into, like those ancient mystery schools that existed, but like receiving like everything that was in the curriculum, like in one night, like those things are possible. And so it's just wisdom, it's awe, and it's often also hard to find like the words and like the combination of words to describe it because it's just something that is so incredible, like it has to be lived and felt to be able to really understand what it's like.
Wow, beautiful. Let's move on to the next plant you pick.
Well, the other plant I would say that I can speak to is a plant called yopo. And that is a plant that I am also developing a really close relationship. There are like three main plants in my life: tobacco and ayahuasca and yopo. And yopo is a tree. It's a seed that comes from a tree. And this is a plant that I have been working with pretty consistently over the past year under the guidance of an indigenous elder. And so with him, I'm learning about the plant, but also the way in which we use the plant, which is to do healings. But what this plant brings for me and for those that ingest it, and the way that I see it happening in the gatherings that my teacher holds, is that it brings a lot of clarity. And I think that, for example, a lot of people are drawn to ayahuasca because they hear about the visions and like these experiences that you can have that are like super out of this world. And that can happen. And those are super cool and amazing to have. But what I have found with yopo for me is like, it's not about visions or anything like that. Getting, it's about finding a clarity within yourself that's so profound. Like it blows my mind how deep one can go just by having clarity, like just by being clear. It's like you can see so much, and then it's mind blowing how much you can discover in the clarity of things. Like no, like nothing that's like psychedelic that's like happening in your field of vision or in your consciousness or anything like that. It's just like discovering the truth about yourself, and who you want to be in this world and what you want to do. And that for me is what Yopo does. It brings clarity, it brings presence, it brings a sense of connection with the sky. It's like a plant that's really connected with the sky, like the celestial realm. And so that's a lot of light. For me, Yopo is just like a lot of light, clarity, and presence. And I don't know who I would describe. Maybe like Jesus would be like Yopo for
Mm.
me because it's just like
Yeah,
so
it definitely
centered.
sounds more masculine. It would be a masculine person. Yeah, sounds like that.
Huh? And it's also something, again, I think all these plants like really have a way of like bringing you to the heart, but Yopo for me is also just a plant that like really connects you to your essence, like allows you to be connected to your essence and radiate from there.
Mm, beautiful. Um, have you had experience with iboga?
I have not.
Okay, me neither. So I can't speak to that. So what else we got? What else? Let's talk about mushrooms. How would you describe those?
Mushrooms, I think mushrooms are great. Where would I start with mushrooms? I mean, here, I mean, in ride in nature, like an experience in nature, it's something that again makes me feel really connected to the earth. Not surprising, they come from the earth. All these plants do. Um, Mushrooms, I think, are also like sneakily powerful. Like I think that they can take you like really, really deep to look at parts of yourself and of your experiences that can be like really dark, but from like a child's perspective. So like still like maintaining that playful sort of energy.
Hmm.
The thing that I will say is like mushrooms are the like entheogen that I have worked with in the most recreational manner. Like all other like sacred and master plants have always been more of a ceremonial experience for me. Mushrooms have been the only one that has been more of a recreational thing. And I think like that's something that's really nice about them too. Or like with microdosing, I feel like they can help in terms of there was a point in my time in my life where like I was supported by them along creative processes. And that was a really interesting experience to have with them. But now the way in which I engage with plants is like really ceremonial settings only. And I have had experiences with different types of entheogens, like with frog medicines as well, and wachuma and peyote. But now I really just stick to like the plants that I'm like in service to.
Hmm. Okay, great. So we have three more: frog medicine, wachuma, peyote, and I think that's it. I love it. It's great.
Okay. So two types of frog medicine. So my first was bufo, and bufo was for me, as it is often described, a short-lived experience, maybe 15 minutes maximum, but the feeling, the experience happens instantaneously. Um, you inhale like the it's how do I describe it? It's like a secretion from a frog that is heated, and then the vapor like that comes out from that, you inhale it. And as soon as you inhale it, it's like you lie down. And for me, the experience was one of like a total dissolution. It was like my body totally dissolved. I couldn't feel my body. And I perceived myself as a little wave of energy, and everything around me just turned into little waves of energy. And that was the experience that allowed me, I feel like, to really understand that everything is just energy. It's an experience that I would say could probably be really overwhelming if you resist, because it's so fast and it's so profound. It feels like a control alt delete of like everything in your psyche, like energy that you have stored that has just been like weighing on your energetic body. And it's really a feeling of being connected to like the energy web that we are all a part of, like this great mysterious universe. And so fast, deep, really otherworldly, and I don't know anyone that like embodies that in real life, so I don't know how I would describe them as a person, but it's powerful. I don't know that I would just like recommend it like to try just because I think, I mean, with all medicines, you have to be called for it, but it is a very intense one. And then the other frog medicine is combo, which is really, really beneficial for the physical body. Like it really helps you. Let me get my thoughts sorted. The whole point of having combo is to initiate like a mega purge. Like no part of the experience with combo is enjoyable, starting from the fact that the way that it's applied is that there are some very superficial burns. They're superficial, but you're getting burnt on your skin. Then the combo is applied to those burns. And then pretty soon after, you start to feel really unwell physically. Um, a very normal reaction is that people vomit. It can also send you to the bathroom, or you can release what you need to, crying, laughing, yawning, but most common is that you vomit or that you go to the bathroom a lot. And so it's really able to like get the bile out from like the depths of your liver. Apparently, like that purging process also initiates some sort of like purification process of the blood. It's all about like fertilizing your immune system and purifying like the organs that like are responsible for processing all of the toxins that we ingest in the body. So there's a reason why they call it the vaccine of the jungle. Like it's something that really supports your physical health. Although it can also like it's also serves all of these also always serve to like clean you of like the mental, like the toxicity and like your mental emotional patterns too.
Wow.
And yeah. And then I guess Wachuma, the cactus medicine, San Pedro, is is like drinking sun because these cacti grow, you know, in the mountains. They're just all day long taking in the energy of the sun. And so when you drink it, you really feel that. Like you can just feel how your body begins to vibrate. And I feel like there's like a joyful energy that comes with that too, which kind of like makes sense. It's like sun, solar, a lot of life, a lot of vibrancy. There's like an element of like joyfulness to it, a lot of energy, and it's another medicine that for me brings a lot of clarity and presence and grounding. I know that there are people who experience visions when drinking wachuma as well. That's never been my experience. For me, the experience is one of clarity and grounding and presence. And truthfully, I really appreciate medicines that bring you to that place because, like I said, visions are cool and that's a whole experience, but to me nothing is cooler than like getting clear on things, and so wachuma helps with that too.
Wow. Beautiful. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yes. Great. I love this. I love this. I think
I
we
couldn't give you
could.
the name, describe them
No, no,
as
no.
people because it's really
That's good.
hard, but
I think we have one more peyote, right? Is that the
peyote,
same as wachuma or different?
it's different. I had peyote once or twice, not as ceremonially, and so I think like ceremonial dose and I think a ceremonial dose and being in a peyote ceremony is totally different. What I did was with a medicine woman, we ate both peyote and San Pedro, and we went on like a really long nature walk. And so it was also combined with San Pedro. And so on its own, I'm not sure. But the thing that I felt and the way in which I felt it was similar to San Pedro. It was like that connection to a lot of groundedness and just it's the vibe, it's like opening. It was like opening my vibration to receive the vibration of the nature and everything that was around me and just feeling like totally synced up and in harmony with that. Super clear mind, like really just connected to my breath, the steps that I was taking, the environment that I was in, and presence. And presence is such an interesting thing to commune with, you know, when like it can be one of the hardest things to cultivate. And so I think that the cactus medicines are like really incredible for bringing us to that. And it makes sense because they're just like tall and grounded and, you know, like firm in their place. And so I feel like that's how I have felt when sitting with them.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this. This is super duper excited. And now we're kind of like nearing the end of the episode, so I want to ask two, three more questions. And the next question would be, how would you personally see, like, what's your vision for the future? Like, what the any goals, anything that calls you now that you're in Ecuador? Like, you know, you are at a retreat place. Are you looking to maybe, you know, like, what's your future? What's your vision? Then just tell us a little bit about that, and what are you looking to call in?
Sure, thank you for asking that because it feels really good to be able to say I actually feel really clear on the vision for my future. I mean, I love being able to be a part of the journey and sharing ayahuasca with others. And so currently I facilitate ayahuasca retreats with my teacher. And so that is a vision, you know, like that is something that we will continue to do. She's not just my teacher, but she's my friend and feels like a soulmate as a person as well. And so we facilitate these retreats. Right now, we do them at a retreat center that we rent. I would say, like, vision for the future is to be able to like buy land and build our own place and also have land where we can replant ayahuasca because like thinking about that reciprocal relationship with Mother Earth and conservation is something that's really important to us. And so I see that as also like a conservation project that we will have and we will tend to and like grow old together serving ayahuasca. And then I, the reason why I'm studying with this elder in Colombia, his name is Abuelo Clemente, is to receive his healing tradition. It's like my version of medical school, basically. And so my intention with that is to be able to work one on one with patients and with what I'm receiving from him. I mean, he has the ability to basically heal anything that he's faced with, like whether people come to him with physical ailments or whether it's something that's like emotional, mental, like psycho-spiritual, things like that. I mean, he can even cure people who have like early stage cancer. Like if someone comes to him and they're like at the very like last stages of it, like that's hard to do, like that he cannot do, but he cures things that there are no cures from, like in the like in the Western like medical traditions. And so he has what is called a liwesibo. It's like his house of not just healing, but it's loosely translated to house of contemplation because there he shares yopo as well. And so it's a place where people come and they not only find healing, but they find a lot of clarity for themselves and what they want to do with their lives. And so my vision for my future is also to have my own house that people can come to and receive healing and also receive these plants that I work with and have dedicated my life to being in service to. And I just want to share the things that I have found that have like brought me back to myself. And so these are kind of like the two ways I envision myself doing that. And the third thing I will say, like something that has recently kind of like dawned on me as something that I feel that I would really like to offer when I really can like give form to the idea is a form of mentorship. Um, because I am increasingly, I feel like people are increasingly coming to me looking to be supported in a journey of like one, getting clear on like what their purpose is on life, but then two, like having the courage to allow themselves to like take the steps that they need to take in order to like move towards that direction of like living their life's purpose. And it feels almost like a little bit, it's like I don't even feel like I can like fully say this sometimes because I'm just like, I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I guess like people come to me, they see me as someone who has been able to do that, like to just go after what I feel is my life's calling, and they are looking for support to be able to do the same. And so I feel like I would really love to create a way of working with me where there is guidance in the ceremonial and like sacred plant medicine space, because I think like that's a really big part of like helping to get to that truth of who we are. And so there's like the space and the guidance that's held in working with these plants, but then also like combining that with like what I can offer from an integration and like mentor perspective so that they can take those things and kind of like materialize them into their lives. And I think that's what my future will be about.
Beautiful. And I'm just on your website. So you have your website is nadiaestefania.com. We're gonna link it in
Uh-huh.
the show notes. And you currently do offer plant medicine integration and coaching. So if anybody's interested in that, for sure reach out to Nadia. And I think when you were talking about what you were talking about just now, like finding your purpose, that's something you could create a program around.
Yeah, I
That's
could
what is
create a
what
program.
I'm feeling, like you just say, find your purpose, and it could be like a 6 week or an 8 week program for people that come to you or with you, or has some sort of a part of it is a retreat, or it's like a final celebration, or it could be in the beginning of their journey, right? You invite them to Ecuador or wherever it would be for them to have that initiation if they want to do it. It could also be an option, it could be optional with plant medicine. We initiate you without plant medicine. Of course, you can find your purpose there too. And with plant medicine, obviously, it will be a retreat, and then you will be the incubator, kind of helping them to in the next 8 weeks, we help you to incubate, integrate, materialize your purpose. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it definitely feels like it could be a program, one that I would have to be incredibly thoughtful about. And so I will allow all of the pieces and how it comes to life to to come at its own time. But yes.
Beautiful. Yeah, great. Sweet. So I have two more questions for you. The next one is what what would be the key, any kind of key wisdom, key advice, key some deep insight for people who just want to start out and be like you, right? Who want be their own spiritual entrepreneur. What advice would you have?
It's like the biggest and the most important thing is to get comfortable with listening to and following your intuition. Like we all have an intuition, and that is the thing that I feel like should always be your North Star, the thing that you follow, even when it doesn't make sense or you feel like the way that it's leading you is going to make you feel really uncomfortable. Like follow that, like put yourself in the discomfort, because the best things are going to come from listening to that inner guidance that we all have. So I would say like really listen to your intuition. And I feel it's really, really helpful and necessary to really like cultivate, like, I think of it as like dominance over the mind. So the mind doesn't dominate us, like really being able to learn to distinguish between like the self and the mind and like being able to cultivate the ability to like sit as a witness to the mind. And so like starting with like really basic like mindfulness practices. A lot of times when I start to work with people with integration, there are like really basic things that I suggest that they do as the start of like cultivating all of these new capacities. And like these are not like crazy new insights or things that like people have not been talking about for many, many years. But I think the same things are suggested so frequently because they really work and they're really important. And so I think it's like finding like a practice that allows one to cultivate like clarity and a feeling of centeredness and groundedness, like whatever that looks like for you, because there are so many different options out there. But take the time to like find what those things are and then really put in the effort to make that a habit and like a part of like your regular life, because they may seem like minor things, but the benefits like are are really priceless. And so I think that if you're going to like set off on this path, you need to be able to like regularly feel clear and to feel grounded and to feel connected with yourself, to have the ability to like take this path that will be challenging and hard at times.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Does that does that resonate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is great. Um, yeah, no more questions from my side. I think this is beautiful to conclude with this. And is there anything else you would like to add that hasn't been said yet, or do you feel complete? Anything else you would like to share? Now would be a good time.
I feel super complete. I would really like to express my gratitude to you. A lot of people are going to benefit from the collection of folks that you're going to have on here and what they have to share, because it just feels like we're in this time where so many people are ready to take this leap. And I think we all always need like all the support that we can get. And you're creating this amazing resource for so many people. So thank you to you two for your light and this creation that you are bringing forth to the world.